Welcome to CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. Coming up, even though a federal court ruling put it on hold, President Biden is not backing down on his vaccine mandate. We'll have details. Plus, as Veterans Day approaches this Thursday, we'll hear from the son of a former president about their plight in America.
You need to remember vets, not 3 days a year. You need to remember vets 365 days a year.
And we'll learn what he believes President Reagan would have to say about the way veterans are treated today. Also, the crisis between boyhood and manhood.
Boys are being left behind. It's like boyhood is some kind of social disease that needs to be eradicated.
Two Christian groups unite to find solutions for both men and boys. And the latest movie about the famous Christian author C.S. Lewis is a big hit. We'll tell you what that means for how long it's going to stay in the theaters. Those stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin with emotional reunions erupting across America's airports as family and friends connected in person for the first time in 18 months. Still, the president continues to double down on his vaccine mandate for U.S. businesses, despite a federal court ruling putting it on hold. CBN's Jenna Browder brings us the latest from Washington.
American borders have reopened for fully vaccinated visitors from 33 countries for the first time in more than a year and a half. And as you might imagine, there have been some pretty emotional reunions.
Tell me how you feel.
Oh my God, it's so awesome. It has been like 2 years. My friend, my fiance is here. It's I feel joy. Seriously, it's so good to be back.
So we're really happy that U.S. Customs is opening. And really happy that we can be together and build our lives together.
These European visitors happy to be on U.S. soil after showing proof of vaccination and a negative COVID test within 3 days of traveling. For travelers from Mexico and Canada, just proof of vaccination. It comes as the White House continues to push its vaccine mandate for businesses with more than 100 employees. A federal appeals court blocking that mandate over the weekend, though, citing grave statutory and constitutional issues. Still, the Biden administration is encouraging businesses to go ahead with enforcement.
This is about keeping people safe in the workplace, and it's critical and it's important to do, and so that's the message that we want to send out.
At least 27 states have sued to block OSHA's federal mandate, the multi-state lawsuit led by Louisiana's Attorney General.
As the Chief Legal Officer of Louisiana, I'm taking action to prevent the government from making your health care choices.
Meanwhile, good signs for the U.S. economy. The Federal Reserve saying the economy is coming back after the COVID recession. There are concerns, though, this new mandate could hurt the economy. One reason the Biden administration pushed its deadline past Christmas.
So the OSHA rules here, right? The whole idea that that this was an emergency action, that OSHA had to take this emergency action on the federal mandate because, you know, it's a virus that's killing people. And then all of a sudden we find out that the OSHA rules won't go into effect for a couple of months. If it's an emergency, why are we waiting a couple of months until January?
And on Pfizer's booster shot, the company will reportedly seek FDA approval for those 18 and older sometime this week. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
While the U.S. lifted its international travel ban, experts say it will take years for travel to fully reopen. They say a lot of people are still not vaccinated, and even those who are may run into months-long delays in obtaining visas needed to enter the United States. The U.S. Travel Association says it is on average a 6-month backlog of people with appointments looking to obtain a visa. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol issued subpoenas for 6 people close to former President Trump. They include former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, attorney John Eastman, who drafted a memo laying out a strategy for the vice president to possibly reject certification of state electoral votes, and former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, who allegedly took part in a January 5th planning meeting. Trump ally Steve Bannon is facing potential criminal charges after being held in contempt of Congress for refusing to testify before the committee. The Supreme Court heard arguments today on whether Texas must allow a minister to audibly pray and touch a prisoner. The case involves inmate John Henry Ramirez. He is on death row for killing a convenience store worker during a 2004 robbery. His lawyers are suing and asking the court to allow a minister to pray for and touch Ramirez as he is given a lethal injection. Executions are being delayed until the courts make a decision. Get more on the hearing on tonight's Faith Nation. It airs at 6 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News Channel. Here are some other stories we're following for you now in the CBN Newsroom. It is now day 25 of the kidnappings in Haiti, and according to Reuters, a senior official with the Biden administration says at least some of the 17 missionaries are confirmed alive. Christian Aid Ministries released a statement saying they, along with government authorities, continue to work hard to bring them home safely. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom is asking the State Department to add India, Russia, Syria, and Vietnam to its country of particular concern list. USCIRF says they believe those countries are religious freedom violators. The State Department is expected to make a decision sometime this month on which countries will get that designation. If any country falls under that category, it could face sanctions and other consequences. A pastor in Tennessee tackled a gunman as he marched toward the altar at the front of the church's sanctuary. 26-year-old Desire Baganda was sitting in the front row of the Nashville Light Mission Pentecostal Church. He pulled out a gun and walked up to the altar. He told everyone to get up. The pastor, Ezekiel Ndikumana, told local news station WKRN-TV through an interpreter, a church choir member, what he believed the gunman was planning.
He wanted to kill. That's what first thing came to my mind.
While Baganda was waving the gun, Pastor Ezekiel pretended to leave the church, then snuck behind the gunman and tackled him. Churchgoers then also joined in, got his gun, and held him until police arrived. Baganda isn't a member of the church, but he had been there before. He had reportedly been asked not to come back after interrupting services back in February, although he wasn't violent then. Church members said their pastor saved their lives, but he gave the credit to God.
God wanted to show that He's a powerful God. But one main thing I said, we had faith.
The gunman was charged with 15 counts of aggravated assault with the possibility of more charges to be added. Evangelist Franklin Graham is recovering after successful heart surgery Monday at Minnesota's Mayo Clinic. Graham's Samaritan's Purse ministry, that is, reports that he developed a disease called constrictive pericarditis, which includes inflammation and hardening of the pericardium. That's the sac around the heart. That hardening compresses the heart and prevents it from working properly. Graham's doctors expect him to make a full recovery so he can resume his normal ministry schedule. It's great to hear. Well, coming up, we'll talk to Mark Hancock of Trail Life USA about the group's upcoming call to manhood for fathers, sons, and boys who need a father figure in their lives. We'll have that when we come back. Welcome back to Newswatch. The faith-based scouting group Trail Life USA is teaming up with Dr. Tony Evans and Promise Keepers for a 14-day challenge for dads. The Fatherhood Summit kicks off tomorrow with a 1-hour live event streamed on Facebook and YouTube. The summit will include 14 days of encouragement and practical application, all while connecting dads with community through discussion. Their goal is to help men be strong, influential fathers to their own children and to those who don't have a dad in their lives. CBN's Charlene Aaron and Wendy Griffith talked with Mark Hancock of Trail Life USA about the upcoming Fathers Summit on this week's episode of The Prayer Link. Hancock told them just how needed this summit is to their mission to help young boys grow up in a world that often challenges the value of manhood.
Well, first of all, you will be a keynote speaker at the Promise Keepers Fatherhood Summit this Wednesday. Why was it important for you to be a part of this?
Well, I got to tell you that Promise Keepers is a great organization that's building up a generation of godly men. And right behind them is Trail Life USA that's building up a generation of the next generation of godly young men. And so we need godly men to mentor the boys in our organization. We've got 37,000 trailmen across the country and 900 churches in all 50 states. And so a move like this on Promise Keepers' part to reach out to fathers and encourage them and bring them along and mentor them and disciple them means a lot for the next generation, the boys who need those men to look up to.
Absolutely. Mark, I understand that 1 in 4 children, or 18.3 million kids, live in a home without a father, stepfather, or a father figure. What impact does this have on kids?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to imagine. I mean, it's tough for boys today. I mean, they're now twice as likely to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They have fallen behind girls in every single academic category. And we'd love that girls are making this progress, but boys are being left behind. It's like boyhood is some kind of social disease that needs to be eradicated. And it's really because of the absence of the male mentors, the men in their lives. You know, 73% of teachers are female. And there's so many boys that don't have a father in their house. Well, that single mom is doing a Herculean task in that house, and that girl has a role model to look to. But many times that boy doesn't have a role model. And so boys are being mowed down in record numbers: suicide, drug abuse, crime, falling behind in academic things. There's now more girls attending college, getting bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctoral degrees. Boys are being left behind because men are not present in their lives. And so it makes a big difference. A boy needs a man to look up to.
So, Mark, how does Trail Life USA step in and fill that huge gap that's been left, you know, where fathers should have been?
Yeah, well, we have a proven process in Trail Life USA. We talk about boys as being unguided, meaning that they don't have male mentors. They are ungrounded in that we've taken away the absolute truths of the Word of God pretty much in our culture. They're unappreciated because we don't understand how boys and girls are different. You know, they actually are. And they're also uninspired because we don't challenge them with risk and competition like we used to. So Trail Life steps in and fills those gaps. And we give them men to follow after, so they do have someone who's guiding them. We give them the Word of God as our foundation, so they do have something that grounds them. We create a program that's aimed at them, specifically designed for the strengths of boys, so we do appreciate them, and we give them risk and competition and reward, so we do inspire them to do great things. And so I think that the mission of Trail Life and our proven process is that we are taking boys and turning them into godly men by restoring these essential underpinnings to their lives so they can succeed.
So important, Mark. What do you hope dads take away from this Fatherhood Summit this week?
Well, we want them to be inspired. We want them to have a vision for who they are as a dad, for the influence that they can have over the next generation. It's a big deal. You know, men who are called by God to do something, sometimes it's hard for them to find their place in our society. You know, so many churches are there's women are very active in church, but it's hard for men to find their place there. And so we want to give them a vision for what it is that they can do and how it is that they can impact the next generation. Because once you have a sense of your identity and your purpose, that releases you to have the full potential of God fill you, and the Holy Spirit of God to step into that place where you're longing to find what it is that you're called to do. And we know that all men, any legitimate call to manhood, we believe must include a call to be a dad or a dad-like. You know, you talk about James 1:27. All men should be either a dad or find a boy to be a dad-like to. That's what we want to inspire them to do.
Mark, how can people register? Is there still time to register for the summit and find more information?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find some information at traillifeusa.com or on our Facebook page, and of course at promisekeepers.org. They can find information on the Fatherhood Summit. Of course, so excited to hear from Dr. Tony Evans and Ken Harrison, the chairman of Promise Keepers, and others who are going to be speaking on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then that 14-day challenge that they can download the app, and every day they can have a challenge that helps to inspire them and grow them up as godly men.
Awesome. Great. What an amazing summit. And we wish you all the great success with it. We know it's going to be awesome.
Mark Hancock.
Well, thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
And we also want to let you know that CBN News will be airing the kickoff event for the Fatherhood Summit. It will be on the CBN News Channel on November 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Just log on to cbnnews.com for more information.
Important event there. And for more faith-based stories, watch the prayer link tonight at 6:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel, or you can catch it on the CBN News app. Still ahead, Ronald Reagan's son talks about what his father would think about what America's veterans are facing in this day and time. We'll have that story right after this. Thanks for staying with NewsWatch. The plight of veterans takes front and center this Thursday as Americans honor those who have served and those who are serving the nation. Appearing on CBN's The Global Lane, President Ronald Reagan's son Michael was asked what his father would think of the way veterans are being treated in the United States today.
I think he'd be very upset. He was very upset back in the 1970s, the way they were being treated, especially when they came home from Vietnam. And he did something about that. And he would make sure that our veterans were treated with great respect. Those who are coming home, those who are here, that need really all the help they can get, especially when you have so many committing suicide on a regular basis, up 46% in this last year. He would try to get to the bottom of it and say, what can we do to help these vets? And I think people really need to understand, I think what he would tell people is, you need to remember vets, not 3 days a year. You need to remember vets 365 days a year. And unfortunately, we only do it 3 days instead of 365 days. But we need to think about that all the time, not just part of the time.
I know some friends of Gold Star families have expressed concern that illegal immigrant families separated from their children at the U.S. southern border are being awarded nearly $1 million, while family members of U.S. servicemen killed in Afghanistan receive only about a $100,000 death gratuity. What does this say about government's attitude towards our servicemen and women and veterans?
Well, in the world of defund the police, is anybody really surprised by any of this that's going on, where you really lack respect for those who are in fact protecting us, and you have all this disdain for them and the people of America while reaching out? And it's really all about elections. It's all about bringing people in here, giving them money, to get them to vote, so it keeps you in power for a much longer period of time. And we just can't afford to allow these people to be in power that length of time. We need to do something about it. We need to have a voice. We need to say something. We need to stand up and say, I've taken all I'm going to take, and really get involved. And don't sit back and say, well, it doesn't mean anything if I vote. It means a lot if you vote. You need to show up.
And I know you're doing a lot to help our veterans. Please tell us what you are doing to help with your Walkway to Victory program.
Actually, Walkway to Victory is a great program we started a few years ago. We started with the Reagan Legacy Foundation supplying scholarships to the men and women aboard the USS Ronald Reagan. That's where this flight jacket comes from. They made it for me. And it's been a great program ever since the early 2000s, when we christened the USS Ronald Reagan in 2001 in Norfolk. And since then, we've kind of expanded it. And you might remember my father was the first president to actually speak at Normandy on D-Day. And since then, every other president's gone to Normandy on a D-Day of their administration and, in fact, spoken. And people love him and really respect him for what he's done for the World War II vets. And remember, my dad did 300 films during that period of time, teaching kids how to use a parachute, how to swim, all these other programs that he did during the Second World War. And so I thought, what could we do to honor his memory and legacy of how well he felt about those who served, and honor those who did serve back in the Second World War? And so we created the Walkway to Victory at St. Mary Église, Normandy, France. It's an unbelievable place for the 101st and 82nd Airborne. It's their Gettysburg, if you will. And we thought about putting together a walkway where people could go online, buy a brick, and have it inlaid in the ground at St. Mary Église to remember that person who, in fact, served in the European theater during the Second World War. And we're up to now somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 bricks have been laid. People put the names of their loved one, grandparents, whatever it might be, who served. And those who don't know someone can go to ReaganLegacyFoundation.org and or send a check to us, put in the memo, Brick Project, and we will find a World War II vet that served the European theater, put his name on it or her name on it, put it in the ground and lay it in the ground, and then send you the information so you know exactly who you sponsored for people to remember that's there at St. Mary Glee's at the Walkway to Victory, in the Walkway to Victory at the Airborne Museum.
Okay, a great way to honor veterans on this Veterans Day. Michael Reagan, president of the Reagan Foundation, author and syndicated columnist. Thank you, Michael, for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So important to honor our veterans. Well, coming up, the life of C.S. Lewis, told in a new movie. It now has an extended showing at the box office. We're going to tell you about that when we come back. Stay with us. Movie about the life of Christian apologist C.S. Lewis grossed $1.2 million in a one-night only release at theaters last week, but it's now playing through the 18th due to its success. The Most Reluctant Convert, the untold story of C.S. Lewis, showcases his journey from atheist to one of the most beloved Christian writers of the past century. Filmed in and around Oxford, England, the movie follows the creator of the Chronicles of Narnia from the tragic death of his mother when he was just 9 years old through his troubled relationship with his father. The movie also reveals the nightmares he experienced while in the trenches of World War I to studying at Oxford University, where friends like J.R.R. Tolkien challenged his lack of Christian faith. Looks very interesting there. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.